I want to thank Dr. Wertheim, who has been a his name is all over this campus. As the president likes to say, it's the only husband and wife team that have their name on a medical school and a nursing school. They are and they're just very kind and very nice people. And we are blessed to have them as part of the FIU family. At this point in time, I would like to introduce the 5th president of FIU, but I want to say something first. When I left industry and came into academia, a lot of my friends in Atlanta that are business people said, what's the difference between academia and corporate world? And I said, the pace of change is a lot slower. Well, I'm here to tell you today that Dr. Rosenberg, he skipped that book. He didn't read that book. And thankfully, as we move fast here, Dr. Rosenberg.
Thank you. Thank you, my dean. I love to be in our College of Business because as I look out, I see this community's and this nation's future business leaders, individuals who are part of the future, who bring hope, who will generate opportunity, individuals who will create jobs as a consequence and part of the education that you're getting. And part of the education that you're getting is not just the incredible experience that you have in the classroom, but the incredible experience you have in your student organizations, and in particular, we excel with our students from our College of Business in national competitions that I'm really proud of. But we also excel in finding opportunities for you to hear from individuals who themselves have excelled in the rough and tumble world of 21st century global economy. And there's no better example of that than my friend Richard Bernstein. I started conversations with Mr. Bernstein several years ago and quickly found that he was an individual who not only understood the daily challenges of a P&L, but who had a much broader understanding and a passion for how to find a way to ensure that while he was doing well, he could do good. And truthfully, it's uncommon to find individuals who can quickly and intuitively make that kind of a connection. Richard Bernstein can. And he found a way to develop an association with our institution that I'm very proud of. He's an individual who keeps his commitments. He's an individual who is always finding a way to improve how we can do our work. So I'm really pleased that he's here. And I also want to welcome Arthur to our university. We're very proud of this university, as you know. We believe this university is the future of our community, largely because of our scale and our passion and our willingness to get engaged and take responsibility for community well-being. And in many ways, there's no better example of this than your father, on one hand, and his willingness to share his passion and his understanding with the hope and the opportunity that is our students. You have his bio, but let me just give you a few highlights. Richard Bernstein was, like so many people here at FIU, was born elsewhere, in this case, Pittsburgh. He did have an opportunity to get an education here, a place that's called the University of Miami, a great partner of ours. And we have unbelievably positive relationship with the University of Miami. They have a great relationship with us, and so I'm really happy to welcome Kane here to us. And he's an individual who finds ways to work with the most successful business people in the world. And perhaps there's no more successful family these days than the Trump family. And many of you would know that the Trump family has just made a major investment of $200 million right here in West Dade in the Doral. And the first thing that Richard said to me is, you have to meet the Trumps, You have to tell your story about FIU, and when you know that 6 months later he found a way for me to meet Donald Trump and to talk with him directly, one-on-one, and found a way to get Ivanka Trump right here to FIU several months ago. A lady who is charismatic, a lady who is worlds ahead in the finest essence of that, and that was because of the efforts of Richard Bernstein. So I'm really excited to be able to hear his view of how we create health to wealth. We know that health is a major issue, defining issue of the 21st century, and that there's a lot of opportunities in this area. So we connect that today with Richard Bernstein. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Bernstein. Let's give a Panther welcome to
As you can see, I'm not very good at putting this on. Dean Clark, I want to thank you for inviting me. Dr. Rosenberg, I want to thank you for that nice introduction that you gave to myself and my son Arthur. And your students here, you're very, very lucky to have the team that you have, and to learn from that team, so that you can be successful in the future. Make sure that you get every drop of knowledge you can from what you can learn here. So I think it will set the stage. I'm going to start off by playing a tape for about 3 minutes. I would really like you to pay attention to this, because this will lead to the entire talk from this tape. And I had a friend of mine who allowed me to use this tape, and with that, I'll let you turn the tape on, please. Well, you can see the lies that some couples tell, and there's a separation from truth from fiction. But as you know, everybody lies at some point, to themselves and to others. And if you think about what our talk's about, what I'm trying to get everybody to do is to plan ahead. What Gen Ys know about their money? First, they're seriously focused on meeting financial objectives. Over half the young adults have rainy day funds. They're savvy, they're ambitious, they have goals. They have 5 top financial goals. You own stuff, but the question is, what are you going to do with that stuff you own? You will die. You don't think about it because you're young and you think that you will live forever. Someone will get that stuff, and that's what we try to do to make sure it goes to the right party. Okay. Let's talk about planning or managing their income for retirement. Paying off a mortgage, developing a monthly budget, saving and investing for education, making sure the family's taken care of when they die. What we need is your generation immediately or quickly to get ready to go up to Washington, so you can make sure that we don't continue to borrow your money away or spend money that we don't have. Promises made in the past likely won't be there. Support in sickness, care in old age, income in retirement. No one likes broken promises. But for your generation that's only going to deal with this, and the way the country is going, we might be working for China, and we might be learning Mandarin because of our debt at this particular time. More trends. Your generation, the Gen Y generation, is expected to receive no retirement income. You go to the next slide, please. You'll see that 42% of the Gen Y don't expect anything from Social Security. Priorities are trimming debt at 4 times the rate of other generations and delaying the high cost of purchase. No more debt. Your generation is on the right track, and you don't expect to receive Social Security. You don't expect to receive retirement benefits. Next slide, please. Making responsibility for financial futures. Researching online, exchanging information. Having candid conversations about financial futures with your peers, your parents, your professors, and your financial advisors. Well, next. Why are these trends important to you? The reason is, you heard the expression, you can't take it with you. Well, many people realize that, so they're spending it all. And as a child or as a student, you should be spending some time with your parents figuring out what's going to happen. There was a big article in the Los Angeles Times. It said leaving a legacy is not as important as it once was to parents in this country. At one time in this country, you go back in time, they loved living in this country. They built their company to leave to their children and to their grandchildren. Today, with what happened in 2008, with the values going down in companies, the values going down in real estate, a lot of people are concerned, am I going to outlive the money that I created? Are they going to outlive the business that I put together? And they're not so much worried about what they're going to leave to their children, or what they're going to leave to their grandchildren. And I think that in planning, what's very important is that if you can sit down with your mother and father, you can find out what their thinking is, you have an idea, because you're going to have a responsibility soon. The new normal is only 49% of millionaires, boomers, acknowledge the importance of leaving a family inheritance. That's incredible. When I was a kid, everybody would be leaving their business or their family to their children, and they would be figuring out, how can I make sure my kids take over and own this company? Now, it's a different way of looking at it. You have a sandwich generation, the older generation. They're going to take care of their parents. They're going to take care of their children. They need money out here to make sure they have enough money to take care of the college. And people are thinking differently today. The boomers are using their cash while they're still alive. That's why it's important to stand on your own. And as you can see from the sign up there, it says, I'm spending my kids' inheritance. Well, so it's important for you to make sure that you can have your own money. It's important for you to make sure that you're in the right profession so that you know that you don't have to worry about what your parents are going to leave you or worry about Social Security. And you have to worry about a bad economy. I just want to share a little story with you about my son who's sitting here and my family. My mom, she passed on about 2 years ago. And I'd like to tell you, maybe a little older than a boomer, made sure that her house was taken care of. She had money, and I take good care of her. The last 2 years of her life, very tough. My son has 2 children in the hospital. Wife, bed rested, 6 weeks. Child, July 29th, child still in NICU. His son, who he adopted, his wife is from Honduras, Wertheim area. Nice kid, cerebral palsy, can't walk. St. Mary's Hospital in West Palm has a well-renowned doctor by the name of Palin. In turn, had an operation on my grandson, Arthur's son, July 29th, still in the hospital. Now, why is that important? You go, oh my goodness, that's a lot. Why is that important? Arthur's only in his 30s. He didn't have health insurance. He's looking at a $3 million bill. He can't afford to pay $3 million out of his pocket. And no matter how wealthy you are, that's a lot of money. And the kids are still in the hospital. And who knows what kind of care they're going to need in the future to make sure that they're okay. Now, his son has great ambitions to become a lawyer. And when he came to the United States, Arthur went to Honduras to get him out of Honduras. adopted him, he couldn't speak English. Now he's speaking English, being tutored in the hospital. And the doctor who operated on him speaks 5 languages. So I think it's just important to understand what the cost. Healthcare is just a tremendous raising cost. You got to make sure that you have your health insurance policy. Make sure that you're under your family's policy for 26 years or less. If your parents have a policy, you make sure you stay in that policy. If you're provided a policy here at school, make sure that you're under that policy, you're not under your parents' policy. Increasing medical costs. People are living longer. I just talked about a $3 million bill. 5 years from today, who knows what that'll be. So besides the health care, you gotta have savings plans. You gotta put money away. It's important. And there's different ways of putting money away. Your own business is one way. Through a cash value life insurance policy is another way. Through investments is another way. And it's something you have to manage on a day-to-day basis. Entitlements. Hate to break it to you, this is how we feel about entitlements. Boomers worked hard for everything that they earned. They want to spend it, they want to enjoy it. Boomers worried that their children will become lazy and squander the money. No expectations, no disappointments. In short, inheritance may be there, but it might not be there for you. And again, I say take a very careful look at your family situation. If you're close to your mother and father, and you can talk about it, you should talk about it, because it becomes a concern. If they get sick, what's going to happen? What do they need? The most important topic that's being discussed today is healthcare. And let's talk about healthcare. You have the good, the bad, and the ugly. You heard so many misconceptions on the healthcare bill, but I would like to bring a couple of things to everybody's attention, and then we can look at it from a different standpoint. First of all, the good part of the bill. No dollar limitation on claims. For example, my son, you go back in time in the healthcare business, they had $1 million limitation per sickness, per illness. So you might not have been covered in the hospital. You might have come out of pocket with money to pay for these claims. So that's a good thing. That protects everybody. Preventive services and networks are now free. Well woman exams, mammograms, annual physicals, children, well business immunizations, children under 19 today. Next year, everybody in America is covered. No pre-existing conditions. That's good. It gives everybody the opportunity to have health care and make sure that they're covered. Now the bad. With the good comes a little bad, but here's the bad part. Long waits, not enough doctors, not enough hospitals. Rates will be driven up. Healthcare exchange, hard to navigate. As everybody knows, it's been on the front page of every newspaper all over America in the last 3 weeks. Website problems, compliance nightmares. And as you can see, I don't know if you know, but the original cost was $98 million. It's now over $600 million. And still rising. And they still don't have the glitches out of it. The ugly. Now the ugly. When the bill came out, and this is not, by the way, I'm not taking a Democrat or a Republican stance here. I'm taking a stance for every person in America who's entitled to have health care. Here are some of the problems that have happened. It was supposed to be equal for everybody, and it's not. There's supposed to be no exceptions, but there are. Prices were supposed to fall, but they're not going to fall. They said, well, women are being overcharged because they're higher. Young boys, young men are paying too little. So they were merged together, and those rates were raised. People over 60, over 55, their rates were raised. And the problem with these exceptions in there, and here's some of the problems that I see, because when you put together insurance, what determines the price of the product? A couple of things determine the price. claims. We all know what claims are. And then, if your claims are bigger than the money taking that you take in, then your cost has to go up. So how do you bring the claims down and bring more income in? Well, if everybody in America was under the plan and paying for it, you would have a good way of reducing the price. But big businesses, they got a waiver for 1 year. That's a $12 billion cost to the taxpayers. Unions got a waiver. Government employees got a waiver. Congress got a waiver. And if you think about when you go shopping, if you go to Costco, is your local store cheaper than Costco? I don't think so. And that's how the insurance is driven. So what we have to hope for is that when they amend the bill, because the bill is the law of the land, and what you do on a bill that's enforced, you either repeal it or you amend it, and you fix it. Well, everybody's entitled to health insurance, so they have to amend that program so that one shoe fits everybody. And I believe when they do that, that will help drive the cost down. Because what they did is they said, look, if you don't pay for the insurance, we're going to charge you 1% of your income. We're going to charge you $95. Well, if the premium is $400 and you pay $95, and the people who are under it are not healthy, and the people who decide not to take it are healthy, you can't drive that cost down. To make it work, everybody has to be under the plan. That helps drive the cost down. That's very important. Here's where we're headed. Comic depicts the new reality. Before you paid less and you had a doctor. Now you have a tech support person. Well, the tech support person says, hey, you have this problem. You still got to go to the doctor. So it's a two-step process. It's not that you save any money. It's just that now you have 2 steps instead of 1 step. That's just making a joke of what happens. This is very important. You will buy insurance products many times in your life. Life insurance or annuities. You get into a life insurance policy, and it's like a bank. You can put money into that policy, and you can control how much money you put in, and you can control the growth depending upon the product that you buy. You have a waiver premium clause to it. That means if you became disabled tomorrow, that policy would grow if you couldn't afford to pay the premium. Health insurance, everybody has to have it, so you have to know about it. Disability income, if you take that policy out, that policy will help you if you can't work. It'll pay part of your income, and you get a waiver premium on your insurance policy that will continue to grow at no cost to you. You have business insurance, life and casualty, mental and dental and vision, and you have property casualty, homeowners, auto, boat. My feeling is, and I'm talking to everybody here who's in charge, that every student it should be a mandatory for every student in the United States to take an insurance course when they're in college. And the reason I'm saying that is when you graduate, or while you're in school, if you talk to an insurance agent, female, male, how do you know what they're telling you is right? Most people judge what they find out from their agent. What is the cost? They don't ask what's in the contract. When they have a claim and they find out that certain things aren't covered, they go, well, my agent, why wasn't it in the contract? Well, maybe that's why it was cheaper. So I think that every student should really be forced to take a course, just even if it got the basics. Because if you go into business, you have to deal with it. If you have a house, you have to deal with it. It's something that you must deal with. And it's expensive and you have to learn about it. Recently, if anybody read the paper, they talked about flood insurance, how that's going up because of what happened, not what happened in Florida, but what happened in New York and what happened in the Midwest. It's all tied into one. And yet you would think, well, insurance is really a state, not a federal. Well, flood insurance is different because that's a federal. So the point is that if you have a little background on it, you can understand it and figure out how to navigate yourself. Talk about health. Now let's talk about your wealth. You talked about your health, and the question is, wealth and estate planning, value insurance to your family, claims, loss coverage, ratings. How do I know what policy to buy? How do I look at a company? Well, companies are rated, like the federal government's rated. We were AA, we were AAA 2 years ago, we're AA plus now. All insurance companies are AA plus, because once the government got rated down, the insurance industry was in the same realm as the government. They got rated the same way. So, but you should look at the company. What's the size of the company? Is it a mutual company? Is it a stock company? How long has it been in business? How long have they paid dividends? Are they going to be around a long, long time? You should really evaluate the product and see what's best for your family. And then the question is this your future? How do you predict, and I apologize for saying this, when you're going to die or what health you're in? The advantage of getting insurance in advance is that if you're in good health, you can buy it for the best rate. And if something happens to you, they can't take it away from you. That also is an advantage. If you have a waiver premium, like I said before, it really helps your contract. You got to be physically sound. Premiums will be lower. Creditor proof is very important. In the state of Florida, when you buy an insurance policy, if something should happen down the road that you get sued for some reason, if it's not your fault or if it is your fault, if you have a life insurance policy before that happened, that policy is protected. Same as your house. If you had a house, that's homesteaded too, that's protected. So you should take a look at what assets can I protect? What assets can I make sure that if anything happens to me, that no one can touch those assets? Because it protects you, it protects your family, it protects everybody. And the story that I like to think about the most is J.C. Penney. Now, I probably date myself because J.C. Penney's on the way out. But during the Depression, J.C. Penney was in trouble. The banks weren't loaning any money. He couldn't make payroll. He had no money. He went to his life insurance policy, and in 1927, we're talking about a $3 million or a $5 million policy he had in New York Life. He was able to borrow the money out of his policy, make payroll, keep his business going, and the business lasted for 90 years. So, and what's nice about the policy, you don't have to go to your banker. You don't have to get doc stamps. You don't have to pay for it. The difference is that there's a spread inside your policy. So let's assume that the interest rate might be 8%. Well, the increase is 6. It costs you 2, but it's your money. You went to the bank and you had to borrow it, sign your name on the dotted line. You're paying doc stamps. You're paying a lot of money to borrow that money. This is your money. And what's nice about it is when you make enough money, you can pay that loan back. And down the road, if you need it again, you can go borrow it back out again. You're in control of your own destiny. Property casualty insurance, that's an encompass of all coverages. Students are 3 times more likely to be a victim of a burglary. Items, laptops, phones. Let me ask you a question. How many in here have lost a cell phone and had to get a new cell phone? Can I see the hands? My next question to you, did you have insurance on that cell phone, or did you have to pay retail because you didn't have insurance? That's what you got to ask yourself. What is the insurance cost to cover the phone? And then if I don't have insurance, what does it cost me to buy a new phone? So those are the things you got to look at. I know in our family, I got 3 girls and my son, and my goodness, when I think of all the phones that were lost and had to be replaced, it's an incredible thing. Under the new system, I don't know if you know, but anybody who has an iPhone, when you buy your iPhone, through the iPhone, for $99, you can buy insurance. And if you don't have it, you should look into it. Not through me, but through the iPhone. And it's cheap. iPhones are at $600, $800 for a new phone, unless you go through a system and you're on a plan. So you take a look at that. Make yourself familiar with that. Do I need the insurance that I need? Is it cheaper for the insurance, or is it cheaper for me to self-insure? And that's the question you have to think about. The next topic is a very important topic in this country, because this is on top of healthcare. And as you get older in life, what's happened now, because of the cost of healthcare, The way the insurance companies operate, the way the federal government operates. You go to the hospital and get sick, and when you're a little bit better and you can do some things, they take you immediately out of the hospital and they send you home. That doesn't mean that you can take care of yourself. It doesn't mean that you can do the things that you normally could do. And if you're forced to hire someone to come into your house and take care of you at $14 to $28 an hour, it's a lot of money. Long-term health care is the latest thing out there. And there's many ways to look at it. You can buy a standalone, you can add it to your life insurance policy. But whatever you do, your parents should have that. Because that could be a tremendous amount of cost to you, to your family, and a lot of aggravation if you can't afford to take care of them or they can't afford to take care of themselves. The next subject is probably more in your domain than it was mine. But today, your digital assets are worth a lot of money. Domain names, advertising. We had a gentleman speak to us. I'm on the Business Development Board of Palm Beach County. And I had a gentleman speak to us last week. He had sold his company in 2003 for $495 million. He owned advertising.com. When he first started to go to school, excuse me for saying this, he went to FAU. His family sent him down to Palm Beach County. He walked around, he didn't have any money, he didn't go to school, he was not a good student. But he walked down on Delray Beach on the ocean, and he saw these big mansions, and he said, I want to own one of these. He didn't do well. His mother sent him home, went back to Baltimore, went to school, formed another business, sold his company, calls his father was an accountant, calls his dad in the middle of tax season and says, Dad, I want to sell my company, I'm offered $50,000. Father says, listen, I'm busy, don't call me. He says, well, when should I call you back, Dad? 2 months. He sold the company for $50,000, and he started the stock company. Well, he did a great job. He owed everybody money, started this company, calls his father again, 2003. Dad, I can't talk to you. It's accounting season. Call me back in 2 months. Meanwhile, who wanted to buy his company? Time Warner. Paid him $495 million for the company. But he said, I put my father there for 10% of the stock. So my dad got that 10%. Good kid, nice family. And then he went and took the money and he bought a house in Delray Beach on the ocean. Started a new company with domain names. Moved to Florida. Came back where he wanted to be. Now, here's what he says, and why is this important? He says, that was the worst day of my life. Because after Time Warner bought my company, 5 years later it was worth $6 billion. I say it was the best day of his life because he didn't take the money off the table and he would have waited. Maybe Time Warner goes in competition with them and they're a lot bigger. And who knows if he would have got that growth that he thinks he would have got because Time Warner was doing the work. Very, very important. Everybody knows about Facebook, who Zuckerberg is, right? Everybody knows that. Now, I got a client of mine now in West Palm who designed a machine that you put under refrigeration of cars and frozen food that goes all over the world. And he is 5 years ahead of his competition. And who's his competition? Oracle. Now, if you look at who the guest speaker is going to be at Oracle for the next 2 big meetings, it's going to be this gentleman, David Benjamin. Now, they're thinking about buying his company because his computer system is ahead of everybody else's, and they want to be in that business. And what he tells me about the medical business, what's going to happen in the medical business, you're going to go home and you're going to have in your wall, you're going to have things that will tell the doctor what kind of health you are while you're sitting on the couch. You won't even have to. It'll be in your house, it'll be in your cell phone. They'll have a complete record of you. So that's good in a way because it should be able to give you a much better health. Let's tie it all together. Connecting wealth to health. Health and wealth is interlinked. Start saving now. Really important. Even if you can't afford to save now, set a goal. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 15 years? What is your goal? What do you think you can do? Important. Goals are very, very important in life. And if you set goals for yourself and you achieve it, and by the way, don't set a goal that's too high, because if you set a goal that's too high, you won't get there, because you'll be upset with yourself. But if you set it that you know you can achieve it, and you go to the next step and the next step, you're on track. And that's very, very important. Most people have a tendency to set goals that are too high and not achievable. Further talking points for today, let's talk about health insurance, comparing your options for health care. As I said, if you're 26, make sure you're under your parents' plan. The law says you can be covered. Parents have to cover you. Really important. If you don't have health care, you should look at the exchanges. You should understand how the exchange works. You should compare it to individual insurance and figure out, am I better under the exchange? Am I better under my mother's policy, father's? Am I better under the exchange? Long-term care, please talk to your parents. Even if they don't interest in long-term care, find out what's going to happen to them. You know, I was at a funeral yesterday. One of my best friends who was very helpful to me being in the insurance business died. He lived a great life. He was 91. It was very nice. But now his wife's by herself. They were married 70 years. Hard to believe. That's a long time to be married. But she had a son at the meeting. He was a lawyer. But he won't be with her every day. Now she's by herself. For 70 years, her husband took care of her. And the point is that those are and I know they're hard for young people to think about it. I didn't like to think about it when I was young. But I hope that I've given you some advice on that, because it's really important to see what could happen to you, and today with the cost, what could happen to you there. So you need to prepare yourselves. You got to make sure that you're taking care of it. It's really, really important. The other thing is, I talk about a career in the insurance business. Backgrounds in business, MBAs, lawyers, CPAs, medical. Those are all great knowledge points that put you into the financial industry. It makes you smarter, it puts you ahead. And I say there's a vacuum because today in our business, there's not a lot of young kids coming into the business. In the old days, they had programs that they were training. Northwestern, Mass Mutual, New York Life. Those are the only 3 companies left that train young people. They don't do it. So what is the industry doing? They're going after people that are in business, CPAs. When the real estate business was down, they went and they stole real estate agents. Now the real estate business is back, they can't find them. But if you're smart, you know what you're doing, the financial industry is a very good industry to be in. If anybody needs any help, any direction, we'll be happy to lead you that way. And the thing that I think about the most is, you remember the beginning of the slides. You talked about the coup brands. It talked about all the things that people didn't tell the truth on. And the most important thing of that is you don't have to lie to be successful. I wish you all the best.